Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was held from the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Raw just ended about like 5 minutes ago. And this is the go-home show for Crown Jewel, which is this Friday. Still happening. It's still happening in Saudi Arabia. So. But WWE is not mentioning about, where Crown Jewel is going to be, at because of the controversy. But so tonight's Raw. This was a shitty Monday Night Raw tonight. This was this Raw was absolute garbage tonight. After coming off of a decent Raw last week, with Roman Reigns' shocking announcement. With him, stating that, his leukemia came back, and, also Dean Ambrose's heel turn on Seth Rollins last week, which was done, fantastically, and it got people to invest into watching Raw, the following week, which is this week, and all that they got was WWE suckered them in to watch Raw tonight, and all they got was a shitty Monday Night Raw, like how it is. It was decent last week, and then the following week, tonight, it was back to being shitty. So it was just like they were on rerun cycle tonight. So yeah, so let's get on with this review. The show opened with Baron Corbin in the ring. He was addressing the state of the Universal Championship. And Corbin says, last week was one of the most emotional nights, not only, to him as, general manager, but, acting general manager, but, his career, but also his career. And he ends up saying that, that was last week, when Roman made that, announcement. Corbin says, oh, that was last week, and life goes on. And he goes to say that he wishes Roman the best. And he hopes that, when Roman is better, he hopes that, Roman doesn't come back to Raw. And because Corbin ended up saying, Roman made his job difficult. And Corbin then gets interrupted by Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman coming out. Heyman, of course, gets on the mic as always, and he says, in 4 days, history will be made again when Lesnar takes the championship back home, takes the Universal Championship back home, and places it back over his shoulders. And I don't even want to see Brock Lesnar with the Universal Championship back on him. I don't want to see it, and I hope it doesn't happen. And Heyman goes on to say, this Friday at Crown Jewel, Lesnar will beat Braun Strowman. And he goes on to say, it's a spoiler and a guarantee. And he ends up saying he's given, he's given Strowman a heads up. And he goes on to say this Friday, Lesnar will F5 Strowman to become once again the Universal Champion, which, like I said, I hope I don't see that. I hope they put the Universal Championship around Strowman, because he absolutely deserves it. He's the most over guy in WWE. So it's going to be a bad decision if they don't put it on, if they don't put the title on Strowman. So Heyman says Friday we will see history unfold before our very eyes. And so that led to Braun Strowman coming out, and he says that at Crown Jewel he's going to become the new Universal Champion, and Lesnar is going to get these hands. And so they see face to face Strowman and Lesnar. Corbin was holding back Strowman, saying, it looked like he was saying, "Oh, we're not doing this tonight." And so, Strowman shoved Corbin, and then Corbin then ended up attacking Strowman. Corbin got power slammed by Strowman 3 times because the crowd was saying, one more time, and it led to Strowman doing it, hitting the power slam a few more times to Corbin. And then after like the 3rd power slam, that's when Lesnar ended up hitting the F5 on Strowman. And before Lesnar ended up hitting the F5 on Strowman, Strowman was like, "Oh, this is your future. Are you ready for it?" Because we heard it. We heard it because Strowman wasn't on the mic. And so after Strowman said that, that's when he hit the 3rd power slam on Corbin, and that's when Lesnar ended up hitting the F5 on Strowman. And that pretty much ended the segment. But overall, it was meh segment. I mean, Strowman was decent in the segment. Power slamming Corbin. So, and then the first match we got tonight, it was a rematch. Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley once again. Like, how many times are we going to see this? Lio Rush comes out and says to Balor that, he thinks that, he is just an extra and not, an ordinary guy. And he goes on to say to Finn that he got lucky last week and that, Finn didn't deserve the win. Leo ends up going to say that, the big man is going to humble and dominate and beat him tonight. And everyone knows it. And so that's when Bobby Lashley ended up coming out. And this was a shit match, in my opinion. And Bobby Lashley is working with an injury. He has a dislocated shoulder. And so, it's pretty, shocking why, they're making Bobby Lashley work when he's injured. But Finn Balor ended up getting the win because Lio Rush ended up pushing Balor off of the top. And, there was, a point where Lio Rush, was trying to interfere. And Balor was, trying to go after Lio. And so, Finn Balor ended up winning the match by disqualification. Then you had, after the match, Lashley ended up applying a full Nelson on Balor. And so Lio ends up saying, Lio Rush ends up saying to Balor that, he's messing, with Lashley now. That Finn is messing with Lashley now. And Lio Rush is just slapping the hell out of, the hell out of Balor. So pretty much that's basically what happened after the match. But all in all, it was a shit match. Then we had Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush backstage. Corbin says to them, what Lashley did out there to Balor. He found it impressive. And Lashley ends up telling Corbin that last week, was a fluke. And he ends up saying that, Balor is not at his level. And so Corbin ends up saying to Lashley that, that Lashley is officially qualified for Crown Jewel. And that, for the, the World Cup tournament. And Corbin says that Lashley is going to be replacing John Cena. Because John Cena and Daniel Bryan, they don't want to work Crown Jewel. And so that's why, they're putting in Bobby Lashley to replace John Cena. And who knows who they're going to get for for Daniel Bryan. I'm sorry, not Daniel Bryan, for AJ Styles. Who are they going to replace Daniel Bryan with? Because it was supposed to be Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. So I want to know who they're going to replace for Daniel Bryan. So, but they're still, both of them are still advertised for Crown Jewel, but it ended up changing tonight. With Bobby Lashley replacing John Cena. So, and then we had a 10-woman tag team match. It was Lita, Trish Stratus, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Natalya versus Mickie James, Alicia Fox, and the Riott Squad. Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan. And this match, it was not a bad match, in my opinion. This was a decent match. It was entertaining, because of Lita and Trish Stratus. And you had one point in the match where you had Lita and Bayley. They ended up in a double, I think it was a double twist of fate to Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan. Then we had Lita end up in the Lita Assault on Liv, which was cool. And then the match ended with Natalya end up locking in the sharpshooter on Alicia Fox. Alicia Fox ended up tapping out, and so Lita, Trish Stratus, Bayley, Sasha, and Natalya end up getting the win. So, but it was not a bad match. It was a decent match. It was fun. So, then after that, we had Nia Jax was being interviewed about her win last night, how she won the women's battle royal at Evolution, and they also asked her, when she's planning on challenging Ronda. And Nia ends up saying, when Ronda makes Becky tap, she will be waiting for her. And because it was announced tonight that Ronda and Becky are going to be fighting at Survivor Series. It's going to be a champion versus champion match at Survivor Series, which I am really looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to Ronda and Becky. I think it's going to be a good match, a dream match. For the both of them. And Ember Moon ends up coming. Ember Moon, the one who should have won the Women's Battle Royal last night. She ends up coming and she says, she got chills of making history last night. And, Nia was like, this is my interview. And Amber says to Nia, that Amber says that Nia should respect her more, and she ends up challenging Nia to a match tonight. So, and that was the interview with Nia Jax. Then we had Elias was out there. He was saying everything. He is saying is to get them to, Promised Land, for the people to get to Promised Land. And he goes on to say that everybody knows WWE stands for Walk with Elias, his shtick that he does, all the time. Sorry about that, but Elias says, he came to Charlotte early because Ric Flair invited him down. And he says, Rick told him that, he is his favorite. And, he liked what, Elias did to Corbin last week. And he says that, he ends up showing, a clip of, what, Elias did last week where he ended up smashing the guitar, to Corbin's back. And he ends up saying, after the video clip was over, he ends up saying, that felt good what he did to Corbin. And Elias goes on to say that he was planning on singing a song to Corbin tonight. And he says he's going to give that music to Corbin's face. And so, he went to the back, went backstage. Dana Brooke ends up approaching Elias. And she asks Elias to play a song for her. And Elias tells her no. And, he ends up walking to Corbin's dressing room. And he stands, outside of Corbin's dressing room, singing outside, saying that, Corbin is a wolf in a sheep's clothing. He ends up calling Corbin a coward. And that, he's a tall, stupid version of Kurt. And so that's when Corbin ended up, coming out of his room, and he ends up singing to Corbin, saying his career is in the ditch, and he ends up going back into his room, and Jinder then attacks Elias, and Corbin ends up telling Elias that his match is next. And so that's what happened backstage. But I know I said dressing room, but I meant his locker room, or his so-called office. So correction on that. But then we had Elias versus Jinder Mahal. I didn't give two fucks about this match. Elias ended up winning with the drift away. So it was a shit match. And then we had Kurt Angle cut a Hindi promo saying that everyone in the locker room is out of his mind on him winning the World Cup tournament. And sorry about that again, but Kurt was saying about how everyone in the locker room is out of their mind on him winning the World Cup tournament. And he says, winning the World Cup tournament would mean more to him now than what he accomplished. And he says, Seth, Lashley, and Dolph better be ready, because he's going to prove that he is the best in the world. It was a decent promo from Kurt Angle. Then we had a triple threat match. Chad Gable and Bobby Roode versus AOP and Ascension. This was a boring match. This was another shitty match. I did not give a fuck about this match. Chad Gable and Bobby Roode win the match. You had after the match, AOP ended up pinning the Super Collider to Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. Didn't give a fuck. Then we had Seth Rollins coming out, and he was saying, what a week, it has been, and he's feeling a lot of things. He's saying, he was seeing all the love and support the fans have been doing for Roman. And, he thanks the fans for that. He ends up going to say that, the positivity makes him feel good. And, last week he became Raw Tag Team Champion for a third time. And he ends up saying, it's sad. He's sad because, he should have been celebrating with Dean Ambrose. And he goes on to say, that Ambrose turned his back on the Shield, and he turned on, all of us. He turned on the fans. And Seth ends up saying, it makes him feel guilty because he's been wondering all week, if it was his fault, and maybe what he did, 4 years ago, was still in Ambrose's mind, Seth Rollins, broke up the Shield, for the first time. And, he's like, maybe that's why, Ambrose did it. And he ends up saying, one thing he made sure is to find Ambrose tonight. And he ends up telling Ambrose to come out. So Ambrose's music hits, but he doesn't end up coming out, from the back, walking down to the stage. Walking down the stage to the ring. And so we see Ambrose is up in the crowd. And Seth tells him to come to the ring and give him answers. And to face him like a man. And Seth says to Dean that he is a cold-hearted bastard. And he says on the most emotional night, he spat on the Shield and made it all about himself. And, Ambrose didn't even say anything during this segment. I mean, he had a microphone in his hand that he retrieved from his pocket. And he just didn't say anything. And I think, it was good that, that they didn't make him say anything. And, he was going to come down to the ring, but, he ended up stopping. And Seth says, he's going to make Ambrose's life a living hell. And he ends up saying to Dean that, he is a soulless lunatic. And, Steph, is going to go up there, to get Ambrose. Ambrose ends up walking off. And so that's how the segment ended. So, but, I mean, it was a decent segment, but, could have been better. But I like how they didn't make, Dean Ambrose say anything. So then we had Charlie Caruso interviews Bobby Lashley about the World Cup tournament at Crown Jewel. And Lio Rush says, Lashley has done everything. And he says Bobby Lashley will prove at Crown Jewel that he is the best in the world. So, it was that. Then we had Nia Jax versus Ember Moon. This was a squash match. Was a boring match also. You had Tamina end up coming out. End up, distracting, the match. And that gave Nia the chance to win the match. Nia won the match with a leg drop to Ember Moon. And after the match, Tamina and Nia, they end up having a face-to-face stare. So and that was that. I mean, it was a squash match. It was a boring, shitty match. Then we had Kalisto and Lince Dorado. The Lucha House Party. If you all watch 205 Live, they're on there. They made their Raw debut tonight. Which, now we have the Lucha House Party. We have Lio Rush and Drake Maverick. All those guys from 205 Live now on Raw. For who knows, what reason. Yeah, so sorry about that once again. But, I was saying, we have these 205 Live guys on there. Now Lucha House Party. We have Lio Rush, Drake Maverick on there. I'm like, we got 205 Live guys here on Raw for, for what reason? I mean, 205 Live still not doing that well on Wednesdays, even though, they moved them from Tuesdays to Wednesday nights. Is it still not doing that good? Viewer-wise for the WWE Network. So, yeah. So, Kalisto and Lince Dorado, they took on the Revival. God. Oh man, the Revival. This sunk the Revival to new lows, taking on Kalisto and Lince Dorado. This was pretty boring. This was a boring match. Another boring match. Kalisto and Lince Dorado, they ended up getting the win. Kalisto ended up hitting the Salida del Sol on Scott Dawson. So that was that. It was a boring match. This whole Raw tonight was fucking shit. And it dragged on also. This Raw dragged on tonight. Then we had Dolph Ziggler coming out and says, this Friday is Crown Jewel, and he's got his eye on the prize. And Drew McIntyre also came out also. Drew McIntyre says that, finally they broke the Shield, and his attention will be focused on Crown Jewel. He's going to be focused on, Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship. And Dolph says whoever wins that match will be expecting a Claymore kick, whether it's Brock Lesnar or Braun Strowman. Because Drew McIntyre, wants a shot at the Universal Championship at whoever is Universal Champion. And Dolph says his entire career he looked up to Kurt Angle, and he says without guys like him, guys like Dolph wouldn't exist in WWE. And he says to Kurt, he's Dolph and Kurt Angle is not him. Kurt Angle is not Dolph Ziggler. And Dolph ends up saying he's going to submit his legacy by winning the World Cup. He ends up going on to say that he is the best that has ever stepped foot in the ring and the best damn thing to happen in this business. And he also says that, that he is the best in the world. And so out came Apollo Crews, and we had the match. It was the main event. Dolph Ziggler versus Apollo Crews. Short match. This match was shitty, in my opinion. It was a squash match. Dolph Ziggler ended up getting the win. Super kick to Apollo Crews. There you go. So yeah. Moving on to the last part of tonight's Raw. The Brothers of Destruction come out. Undertaker and Kane. Undertaker says this Friday at Crown Jewel, they will take the beaten battered souls of DX for the first and last time to the fiery gates of hell. And it will be slow, agonizing pain. And Taker goes on to say, it won't be the end of an era. It will be the end of their era. King goes on to say, that will be on Friday. And tonight, Triple H and Shawn Michaels are being summoned to the ring, which they say right now. And so Taker says to come out so they can take their souls for eternity, so they can never rest in peace. And so DX's music hits, which got a pop from the crowd. Triple H ends up coming out, and he's just out there, and Shawn Michaels didn't come out. And so Kane ends up getting out of the ring. HBK comes out of nowhere, and then he ends up super kicking Undertaker. And when Kane came back in the ring, Shawn Michaels ran out of the ring. And so Shawn Michaels just laid out Undertaker. And then we saw Undertaker ended up sitting up, the famous sit up by the Undertaker. And that's how the way Raw ended tonight. So, but I thought this ending segment to Raw, I liked it, because of the Undertaker and Kane, and seeing Triple H there, and Shawn Michaels. So, but all in all, like I said, this was a shitty Raw tonight. Every match, aside from the 10-woman tag team match, all in all, it was shitty. It was all shitty, except, like I said, except for that 10-woman tag team match. Shitty ass Raw, shitty ass go home show for Crown Jewel. So yeah. So anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And I will see you all back here tomorrow night for my SmackDown review. And also the Mixed Match Challenge review, which I'll review in the same video. Hopefully SmackDown is a decent show tomorrow night. So hopefully it's better than last week's show. So anyways, I'll see you all back here tomorrow night for a SmackDown review and the Mixed Match Challenge review. Bye.